Okay, we will start now then. Thank you everybody for joining us for this week's Thursday 30. We've got Mike Hazlewood, CEO and co-founder of SensePilot with us. SensePilot is a new access method which allows the user to control their computer with head tracking and facial gestures using only a webcam. So thanks, Mike, and over to you.
All right, it's nice to be here, so thank you very much. I'll start by sharing screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, just firstly, happy World Book Day. So kind of took a few of these using Snapchat's filters. So similar to what Snapchat does of facial gesture recognition and you know, mapping out what the face does, we've been able to use that and translate that into you know, correlating the direction of the face to the head movements moving to the cursor, and then you can also do facial gesture recognition. So you know, seeing what the face is doing. So opening your mouth, blinking, raising eyebrows, and then you can go to kind of opens a lot of things. So what we do, just using the standard webcam, it gives a really high level of accuracy. So it allows you to do lots of different things on the computer, as well as doing enabling gaming. So complex video games can be played completely hands-free. So we are based on Windows operating systems. So just to give a quick overview of some of the different settings, I'll do a live demo in a little bit. But here you can kind of map out all the individual mouse bindings to all the clicking actions on the computer. And we have the ability to do it also is compatible with switches, for example. So I'll show that in a bit. So right now we're in our beta test. So we started up as a company in September last year. So we're actually a family team. We have our CTO, Linus, who's my brother-in-law, Iveta, who's doing our marketing, who's his cousin, and my wife, Erica, is also doing some software development for us. And then we have a friend who has been doing testing on the various prototypes that we've had over the time. So we've just kind of widened up our testing pool in the last 3 weeks. So I'll be sharing some of the learnings from that as well. So I guess the next thing to do is to go and launch a demo and talk through how the app works. So as we launch it, so my setup today, I've got dual monitors. I have an external webcam. That's how you're still able to see me. But I'm using the inbuilt camera in the device. So as you can see now, I'm moving my head around and the cursor is able to move on the screen. This section here, you can select whichever camera you want to use. So if you're using an external camera, you can use that too. So in cursor control, we are able to turn on or off head tracking. Some people might not want to use it. And then you can change out the different sensitivity settings for horizontal and vertical. So if I put it all the way to the highest, you'll see how little I actually need to move and the really small movements that we're able to catch with just using a webcam. That's a bit too much for me, so I'll turn that back down. And then we have smoothness setting, which will change how the cursor moves across the screen. And then in mouse binding, so we'll start by mapping out left click, and you can select all the different facial gestures and the expression size. So for example, if I do pucker mouth, when it reaches this threshold, it'll trigger a click, a left click. So you can map out all the different actions as well. So opening the mouth, and you can change the settings accordingly. And then in this section here in keyboard actions, this is where you can use a switch. So you click on this area and then you're able to use a switch, or for example, if you wanted to use a keyboard, you can also use the on-screen virtual keyboard. So you hit P, and then every time you hit P, it will trigger a right click now. Okay. But for right click, I will probably do mouse to the right. We have a few other settings. So pause cursor. So this one is great if you're watching videos and things. So what this does is it temporarily stops the head tracking, so the cursor doesn't continuously move on the screen. So if I move my eyes to the right, as you'll see now, as I move my head around, it no longer goes until I repeat the action. And then we have recenter cursor. So this will recenter the cursor to the primary monitor. So as you can see, when it's up here, it'll come back to the middle. So that's a kind of an on-the-fly recalibration. So if you need to adjust your position or anything, you're able to do that with that recenter option. And then keyboard binding. So this setting here allows you to this is really for like binding to video game controls. So you can press a physical key, assign it to something, you hit save, and then you can go through and select which facial gesture you'd like to do. So smile. So now when I smile, it'll press W. There's a setting here to toggle on and off. So if it's set to on and you smile, the character will begin moving forwards until you smile again. So you don't have to press and hold it for duration. So that may work quite well for some games. So, and then if we do shift, and then here we can do a combination of keys using the same facial gesture action. So now when I smile, if I do a small smile, it'll only press W, so the character will start moving forwards. And then if you go larger than that, it'll press the second key. So we have a setting here called game mode, and what apologies, what this is a it triggers the cursor to continue moving across the screen. So when you have this set to on, you'll see as I kind of hit the limit, the cursor begins to move on its own accord. So we built this to kind of allow video games, but actually we've kind of been learning from the beta test that it does have some uses for some people to kind of really reach the sides of multiple monitors and things like that. So I'll start by switching it off, and then if we go and launch something, so we can have a look at how it works in a different context. So where you can go and it'll work within the AEC apps. So I've got it set to dwell click here. And then you're able to access everything as needed as well. So, and then one other demo to show is how we can do gaming. So I'll turn game mode on for this case. So I'll just show a brief one. So when I smile, character begins to walk forwards, and then big smile, he starts to sprint. But I'm also able to turn my head and operate the camera 360 degrees. I've set scrolling to raising my eyebrows. So I can scroll through my inventory down the bottom and select something that I want. And then I can look over here and right click to place a block as I need to. So I think that kind of shows just a kind of very quick overview of how we're able to do everything. So if I close down and come back. So as I said before, we're currently in our beta test. So we have been approaching individuals, end users, assistive technologists, occupational therapists to come and try using SensePilot to kind of see and understand what the technology does and anything else that we need to develop and change. So one of the things we started building already is profiles. So we kind of had an assumption before that people would need to have different control mechanisms for different things on the computer. So whether you're doing something with emails or you're doing e-commerce or different games, for example, you'll want to have a different set of commands and controls and then have the ability to swap between them. So we're in the process of building that right now, hopefully have that out in the next couple of weeks. The next thing we've kind of learned is what we were calling game mode, of how the cursor can continually accelerate. Actually, we only have that in the horizontal plane right now, but people are looking to see it also working in the vertical plane as well. But that can also help people to navigate their PC, certainly to hit sort of the far reach of the display, or if you're using multiple monitors. So other things we've come across. So right now we can recognize 22 facial gestures. We're going to be adding a few more. So things like sticking out your tongue, that's been requested. So that's going to be one of the things we're working on next. But we are also looking to do custom facial gestures. So you'd be able to train it on a specific part of the face, for example, if you didn't fit into those kind of typical facial gesture categories. So, you know, you'd be able to map out based on your own facial gestures. So we've also learned about how people are using keyboard shortcuts. So we can do that. You can set up like facial expressions to the same facial expression to different keyboard commands. So for example, if you're copying and pasting, or for example, in the game, if the character's walking versus sprinting. So we can do a little bit more about showing people how to set that up as part of our onboarding. And then right now, the way this works, of the cursor is directly correlated to your head movement. So for those with movement disorders, it can be quite a complex thing because the cursor will be, you know, moving across the screen rapidly. So we're going to do a few things with that, of expanding how that game mode works, but also looking to have almost like a neutral zone where movements are ignored within a certain range, but it's definitive movements outside of that are what we're going to look to try and incorporate as well. So our sort of plan for the future is, so we're in beta test right now. We'll be bringing that to a close in the next coming months. Let's say we're working on profiles, so we will be having people test that as part of the beta test. The aim is to launch fully and have this available publicly in April 25 this year. So from that, we're going to start working on those custom and additional facial gestures, as well as the support for movement disorders. But we've got a few other things that we want to try and do. So we're trying to limit the amount of specialist hardware that people need to get, or having multiple different softwares on the computer. So we're looking at different input methods that we could potentially do. So one of the things we'd like to have and have started playing around with is voice and sound control. So and have all of this done locally on the device. We don't have to, you know, have recordings and have introduced lag by using cloud systems. So we're thinking of sound control, where we could train a model where somebody with atypical speech would make a repetitive noise, and then that would train the model to say, when I do this, clapping, clicking, whistling, this means I want to left click. When I do this noise, it means I want to right click or scroll. And then one of the things we are looking to do in the future, which is quite a bit more complex, is to look at how we can do eye gaze using just the standard webcam. So eye gaze is something typically where you would need an IR camera to have a really good level of resolution for control. But we think with some of our modeling, we can build something that could work. So where you wouldn't need to have a specific designated eye tracking device. So that's some of our plans for the future. And I guess really, if people are keen to test, you can visit our website. You can shoot me an email. We'd love for more people to get their hands on it, test it, see how it works. And then, we're always looking for more feedback. So, does anyone have any questions?
Mike, I was going to say too, to anybody external on this call, SensePilot is going to be an exhibitor at our annual event Communication Works, which is taking place at the Charlton Athletic Football Club on Thursday, the 22nd of May. It's an all-day event, and SensePilot will be an exhibitor there. And I'm sure Mike would be happy if you demo it for yourself at that event. So so please bear that in mind. Actually, I should put a link in the chat just in case. Let me just get it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a few devices with us, so you can try it out for yourself and play around with the different settings as well.
Yeah, it was quite cool, being at the Send conference last year, because we got to see Abdi Omar, who has cerebral palsy and is an eye gaze user, and will also be our keynote speaker at Communication Works, trialing it. So I'm sure he'll be quite excited to try it again, because I imagine compared to when we saw you at Test last year, it's probably come on since then.
Yeah, we've been pretty busy, tweaking and changing things as we go. So it's definitely evolved quite a bit since TES.
And launching in April, that's not very far away.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Oh, it's exciting. So does anyone have any questions for Mike? I think everybody has become very quiet this afternoon. Doesn't look like anybody is asking any questions. I did actually have one, and this might be a really idiotic question, but I was wondering how people remember which facial gesture does what. Like, is there a way of, I don't know, recording, like, so which, because it's quite personal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we're kind of seeing it almost becomes like muscle memory. So the more you use it and the more you have different aspects of this is what I want to do, this is what I'm doing. So we are, like, the profiles thing is quite a complex thing. So if you look at some video games where there's running, driving, flying within the same game, those are all very different inputs. So having those profiles and the ability to switch between them, and then remembering that when I want to do this, I have to do this facial action, it kind of becomes part of that muscle memory.
Yeah. I mean, it's like playing an instrument or something like that, isn't it? Or typing or whatever.
Yeah.
Touch typing. But it's just that initial remembering which one does what.
Yeah, there's an initial learning period with it, and it's just taking that time slowly to build it up and remembering, okay, this is when I want to left click, I do this, or this is the profile I want to use for this setting, and this is, you know, part of that learning curve.
Yeah.